What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to get into as Rutgers making history. The Scarlet Knights beating Minnesota for their first ever ranked win. But before that happened, Maryland, the Terps, beating Minnesota, as well as what is going on with those Golden Gophers. Also, how about that reverse sweep from Pitt against Georgia Tech? ACC action is in full swing, and Florida State, they're still undefeated, as well as that undefeated streak in ACC play will get put to the test against Georgia Tech. Also, Mira Costa looking really good as they won the Redondo Power Classic. Can they finally win the CIF Southern Section Division I crown? Also, we have an AVP tournament this week. It's the last AVP tournament of the season as we head down to Laguna Beach. And the U.S. men's national volleyball team is qualified for the 2024 Olympics. How did they do it, and who stood out? So hand me a volleyball, set the net, because I'm about to serve you up some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday evening, Monday afternoon, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 215 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let's get this show on the road. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on Spreaker. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on TikTok, what is formerly known as Twitter, X, and on Instagram at IE Sports Radio. We also have a Facebook page. All you just have to do is type in the word IE Sports and Radio, and then boom, just like us, and then that's how you're able to follow us on Facebook. We also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and when you go there, you will see all of our shows dedicated to each and every podcast, such as this one. And we also have our blog page, our Fans of the Month, our latest sports news. The list goes on and on for all. And we also have our merchandise shop because we have a lot of items on sale when it comes to like sweaters and t-shirts because the seasons are changing, y'all. And we also have our community forum, and we also have our IE Sports Radio Hall of Fame, and so on and so forth. Because for the past 9 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, it's low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and all you have to do is visit www.planetjerky.net and place your order. Follow Planet Jerky on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Once again, huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that is on a whole other planet. And do follow Set Point on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point, and on Instagram at set_point IESR. And you can follow me, Teran Rodriguez, at Teran Rodriguez1, if you so wish to do so. You don't have to, just because I don't post 99% volleyball content. I post some other content as well, but I digress. And with all that said and done, let us begin. As Patty Bax pops into the chat room, she says, have a great show, Teran. Thanks, Patty. All right, so lots of volleyball to get into, as we only have less than 90 minutes before our New Orleans show, Where You At Sports Chat comes on, as I gotta pretty much speed right through this. So, start off with NCAA Women's Volleyball week number 7. And boy howdy, we had ourselves a week. First, let's start off with the AVCA coaches poll, as here's this week's coaches poll for October 9th, 2023. So 23 through 21, yes, there's no tied for 25, or 25 through 23, or 25 through 21 consists of Iowa State at 25, Minnesota at 24, Kentucky at 23, Auburn at 22, and Houston at 21. 20 through 16 consists of Baylor at 20, Arizona State at 19, Dayton at 18, Creighton at 17, and Kansas at 16. 15 through 11 consists of Purdue at 15, Florida at 14, Penn State at 13, Arkansas at 12, and Georgia Tech at 11. 10 through 6 consists of Tennessee at 10, BYU at 9, Pitt at 8, Texas at 7, and Louisville at 6. 5 through 1 consists of Oregon at 5, Washington State at 4, Stanford at 3, Nebraska at 2, and your still number 1 team in the AVCA/TaraFlex NCAA Women's Volleyball Division I coaches poll is Wisconsin. So let's now recap what had happened prior to that. So it was a very eventful weekend. There were some twists and turns. There were even some notable wins that happened over the weekend, not related to any unranked teams. So starting off on Thursday, we had Kansas State upsetting Baylor in 5. Now, Kansas State was up 2-0 in the match. They took the first 2 sets, 25-18 and 25-14. But then Baylor, being the prior number 18 team before falling down to 20, they took the next 2, 25-22 and 25-21. But Kansas State, being the scrappy and resilient team that they are, they narrowly held on to win the 5th set, 15-13. As I have to give a huge shout out to former Set Point guest Steve Astor. He is an associate head coach for the Wildcats. So good job to Steve Astor and the entire K-State team. Aaliyah Carter led K-State with 19 kills and 20 digs. Baylor hit no higher than 205 in any of the sets, as they hit 96 for the match, which I could see why they struggled and lost this match. Because this is a match that Baylor never really loses. But Baylor did manage to get right, and they took the second of 2 matches, earning a split against K-State. But it's a good win for Kansas State, as it just goes to show how deep the Big 12 is. And it's not just Texas and Kansas and Houston and BYU. You have some of the other teams that are under the radar as well. And TCU is pretty good as well, so don't sleep on any of the Big 12. Also on Thursday, we had another 5-set thriller, and this one I did not see coming. We had UC Santa Barbara outlasting UC Riverside in 5. Yes, UC Riverside. We're talking about Big West Conference play here, as the Gauchos took the first set 25-18, but then the Highlanders took set 2, 24-26. Gauchos took set 3, 25-20. Highlanders took set 4, 21-25. And then the Highlanders took that 5th set, 15-9. Michelle Owobite had 19 kills, while McCall Peed had 26 digs. So that was a big win for the Gauchos, as that kept them in first place. And on that same day, UC Davis, I want to say it was UC Davis, and I want to say that it was a Thursday, UC Davis wound up losing to Cal Poly, which was a big loss for the Aggies, as Cal Poly has actually come alive ever since losing to Long Beach State. Note to self, when you lose to Long Beach State, it helps you out more often than not. But that a little bit later. Anyway, jumping to Friday. All right, Friday we had a lot of craziness. So Friday we had Pitt reverse sweeping Georgia Tech. So first 2 sets were all Georgia Tech, or all yellow, according to a certain someone, as Georgia Tech took the first 2 sets 25-23 and 25-23. But then Pitt really kicked it in a high gear in set 3, taking that set 25-17, and then took set 4 25-15. So when you say all yellow or all Georgia Tech, but the first 2 sets are 25-23, that's not really all that team, because when I see all that team, it means you blew them out or you really controlled the set. When you're only winning by 2, it doesn't really resonate that a team had that set all. It does. You know what I mean? Like, when I see the word all, it means that a team just really flexed their muscle and really just dominated that set. But when you use the word all and then a team only wins by 2, it kind of does not make sense. Now, the next 2 sets were all Pitt, because Pitt, in my mind, really came alive, and they knew that they could not afford a loss. Otherwise, they'd be falling out of that top 10 ASAP. And then that 5th set, they just kicked it into high gear even more, as they took that 5th set 15-8. Now, prior to this, Georgia Tech actually went 5 with Wake Forest and wound up winning that one, which was good and all, but you kind of have to wonder, how long can Georgia Tech survive with these 5-set matches? And I'll be talking about that a little bit later, as Olivia Babcock led the way with 19 kills as she hit 368. Tori Stafford also had 10 kills, as well as, I want to say, Pitt had 4 players in double digits in terms of kills. I don't have the box score in front of me. I don't really need the box score, but honestly, Pitt was really on one in terms of hitting the ball. And honestly, they were really impressive. Not that Georgia Tech wasn't impressive, but this is what really good teams do. And Georgia Tech is a good team. They are kind of borderline of really good, but I just think Pitt is kind of a cut above the rest. And with the freshmen really stepping up, Pitt's future is so, so bright. And I have been singing praises about Olivia Babcock and Tori Stafford ever since their days in Sierra Canyon and whatnot. I think Tori Stafford went to Marymount, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, they went to high school in California, Southern California for that matter. But I digress. Then was the big upset. One of the big upsets here. Number 25, or tied for number 25, Auburn swept number 9 Florida in Gainesville for the first time in its team's history, 25-23, 25-20, and 25-17, as Akasha Anderson led the way with 18 kills as she hit 400, while Madison Shear had 14 kills and she hit 667. So that is a huge win, as in addition to that, Auburn also beat South Carolina in 5, and I know y'all probably saw this, or at least Auburn fans did, but I gave Auburn the team of the week for week 7. Now, the reason I did that is because it's so tough to win on the road. It's really, really tough to win on the road, especially in SEC play. And seeing as Auburn had not beaten Florida in Gainesville, it's tough. And you have to remember that Florida barely beat Auburn in 5 in Auburn. However, this time Auburn was kind of ready, and they not only just beat Florida, they swept them. Now, unfortunately for Florida, they still didn't have Alexis Stuckey, as she is still out for the year. And Florida also got even more bad news, as they also found out that they lost another player to a season-ending injury, which is just really bad, as Kira Hudson is out with a shoulder injury, which is going to require surgical repair. As she announced this on Instagram, and she's only a freshman, and it really sucks that she is out for the remainder of the season. But it is what it is. So for me, you have other players that could step up, and you're a top 10 team who still has some pretty solid wins over teams such as Stanford. But you kind of have to wonder, does Florida really miss Alexis Stuckey that much? I think they do. Yes, Kennedy Muff is filling the center position well, but she certainly is not Alexis Stuckey. And this is no knock on Muff. I think Muff is a serviceable setter, and she could really get the job done. But she's certainly not Alexis Stuckey. I don't want to dangle too much on this, but back to Auburn getting Team of the Week. I think they deserve it just because winning on the road is tough. And in a conference with teams like Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, you got to be on your A game. And for Auburn, they were borderline of being ranked, and because remember, prior to this week, they were tied for 25 with Iowa State. And it looked like they were going to be still ranked, or they were going to be bumped out. And that win over Florida, I said this on the Set Point X account, that win over Auburn is going to ensure that they stay in that top 25. I kind of overlooked their their match against South Carolina, and then I did see that they did pull out the win in 5. But South Carolina does have some solid wins, like against Miami and whatnot. So all in all, it just goes to show the nature of how you just cannot underestimate anybody in your conference, because it's any given week. So there was that right there. And the other team that I had considering get team of the week on my end is Marquette. Marquette, and I'm very sorry to all Marquette fans and all Big East Conference fans for this. I totally forgot Marquette and Creighton faced one another. Oh my god. This is a matchup that always should be circled on volleyball weeks, regardless of how good or bad Creighton or Marquette is. So Marquette, being unranked, they swept number 15 Creighton at home, 25-21, 25-23, and 25-19, as Creighton still did not have Nora Sis. So that's another thing for Creighton. Still no Nora Sis, as Kate Martin still had to lead the way. Aubrey Hamilton had 13 kills for Marquette as she hit 379. And earlier in the week, Marquette also played DePaul and swept them as well. So I had to factor that in. But the reason why I gave Auburn Team of the Week is because Auburn won on the road. Now, if Marquette had won at home or on the road against Creighton, I maybe would have given them Team of the Week. But I just think Auburn was a little bit more deserving. So, sorry, Marquette fans. But their win over Creighton was very incredible, because that still keeps them atop the Big East Conference regular season standings. Meanwhile, for Creighton, you really missed Nora Sis. This is where they really, really, really missed Nora Sis. And it looked like they were going to be pretty good without her, especially after that win over Minnesota. But I think that is showing that Minnesota is more bad than Creighton is good without Nora Sis. Like, they need Nora Sis back as soon as possible. But I think it was a pec injury. Those things, or a core injury, those things are so tricky to come back from. Jumping over to the Big Ten, we had number 14 Penn State outlasting Indiana in 5 sets, 18-25, 25-9, 25-21, 19-25, and 15-11. I told y'all to keep an eye on this matchup because Indiana, I'm just going to say this right now on the record, Indiana is so much better than what that Big Ten conference record appears to be. Indiana is really, really under the radar. You just cannot sleep on those Hoosiers. They are pretty dang good. And Steve Aird has done an outstanding job. Like, they serve tough. They've got big-time hitters. And they just play hard, dude. Like, they've got some good studs on their team. And they were prepared really well in non-conference play. And it just boggles my mind that they went 0-3 against the likes of Long Beach State, Washington, and UCLA. Keep in mind, Washington and UCLA are going to have to play said Big Ten team and the rest of the Big Ten in the future. But for Penn State, they had Jess Maruzic leading the way with 19 kills and 15 digs, while Cameron Hanna added 15 kills. Jess Maruzic is here, ladies and gentlemen, and she had a big-time double-double, and this was not the only match she came up big in, as I'll be talking about that a little bit later. Staying in the Big Ten, we had Maryland upsetting number 16 Minnesota in 5, 25-18, 22-25, 24-26, 25-21, and 15-10. This is where all of those close calls for Minnesota caught up to them. And they had a little bit of trouble, closing out certain opponents in Big Ten play. Because you got to remember, they had to go 5 with Iowa, and they went 5 with Maryland, and they wound up falling flat on their face. So Sam Sire led the way with 20 kills, while Layla Ivy added 13 kills. And it's Maryland's first win over Minnesota for the first time in its team's history. So, ouch-o-rama, Minnesota. Like, I don't understand. And they did have the likes of Taylor Landfair and Kylie Murr and whatnot. Unfortunately for them, they just laid a goose egg. Jumping back to the Pac-12, we had Arizona State edging future Big Ten team USC 25-21, 21-25, 25-23, 15-25, and 15-9, as that snapped USC's 9-game winning streak, as Marta Levinska added 19 kills and 10 digs, as she was the catalyst for that team. As I said, Arizona State snaps USC's 9-game winning streak. I knew it was going to happen just because Arizona State is much more better than most people give them credit for, and they are for real. Yes, the schedule hasn't really been overly big time, but honestly, they're still a very good team, and I think that team is going to be solid, and they could be making a push for the NCAA tournament. But for USC, they're just going to have to work a little bit harder, especially on the road. It is tough to win on the road, especially in conference play, but you just cannot have a dud game in set 5, especially after you blew them out in set 4. All right, jumping over to Saturday, we had number 14 Penn State edging number 24 Ohio State in 5, 25-23, 23-25, 20-25, 25-21, and 15-7. So for the second straight night, Penn State had to go 5 again, and then they prevailed again, as Jess Mruzik had another double-double with 21 kills and 12 digs, and this is what you got Jess Mruzik for via the transfer portal, for reasons of coming up big in Big Ten conference play. For Ohio State, this is just one of those growing pain matches where they battled to the bitter end, but unfortunately the better team won, as this is where where missing out on those players from last year really hurts you, because Riley Rader and Emily Londot just cannot carry this team by themselves, as Ohio State, I think, is just a few years away from actually competing. And you saw in the the top 25, they are no longer ranked, as they got bumped out. And they had to go 4 with Rutgers, which is perfect segue to go into the next match. Oh boy, Rutgers, the Scarlet Knights. Big shout out to Ryan Mather of the Texas Tyrants. Rutgers upset number 16 Minnesota 25-20, 25-22, 16-25, and 25-14. I want to say this is the first time Rutgers has beaten Minnesota, but that's not the lead of this. The lead of this little headline is, or the lead of this story is, Rutgers picked up their first ever ranked win. I'm not kidding you. Rutgers won their first ever ranked match. That is incredible right there. But for Minnesota, this just goes to show something is wrong and something is going on with them. And they're suffering from Minnesota-itis, which is no bueno. They're looking like the Minnesota Vikings. They've got talent across the board, but they wind up belly flopping in certain games. As Alyssa Kinkella had 17 kills and 13 digs to lead Rutgers in the win. As, like I said, it's the first ranked win in program history for Rutgers. I wanted to give them Team of the Week, but honestly, I just couldn't. You have to give Team of the Week to teams that kind of truly deserve it. And honestly, Auburn winning on the road is big time right there. They were put the honorable mention. They, as well as Maryland, as well as Marquette, were put in the honorable mention category. Jumping back to California in Big West Conference play, we had UC Santa Barbara outlasting UC Davis in 5, 33-31, 25-20, 25-27, 16-25, and 15-11. In other words, UC Davis almost did to Santa Barbara like they did to UC Irvine and Cal State Fullerton in the first week of Big West Conference play. Fortunately for UC Santa Barbara, they have this one player named, Michelle Owobite, who had 17 kills and 14 digs, which was big time right there. And honestly, that was a huge win for the Gauchos, because it keeps them in first place. Whereas if they fall to Davis, then they fall in a tie with Davis and Cal Poly and Hawaii, and it becomes a big logjam for first place, and it becomes anyone's conference in terms of getting the top seed in the Big West Conference tournament. For Davis, this was just one of those unfortunate results where they're now starting to get into the meat and potatoes of their conference. And it doesn't get easier for them, because they've got Long Beach State this week. They've got UC San Diego the following day, which is a road matchup, so back-to-back road games. And then you've got Hawaii following that UC San Diego matchup on Tuesday. So now Davis is getting into the thick of their schedule in terms of the Big West Conference, and they're no longer playing the easy ones. And this is no knock on Irvine and Fullerton and Riverside and CSUN, but you look at those matches. The fact that Davis had to reverse sweep Fullerton and Irvine, which in my mind aren't really the better of the Big West Conference teams, it kind of makes you wonder, is Davis a wolf in sheep's clothing, or was that just a little bit of competitiveness from Fullerton and Irvine, only to see them kind of running out of gas in set 3 and whatnot? And I'm not saying running out of gas as in they ran out of gas and just said, oh, let's just stop playing volleyball. Because Irvine almost took that 4th set from Davis. They had to go overtime with Davis, but sadly, Davis, being the very good team that they are, or pretty good team that they are in the Big West Conference, was able to take that 3rd set. Or the 4th set. And speaking of Big West Conference play, now this one was very, very, very bogglesome. We had Cal State Northridge, or CSUN as lots of y'all call them, beating Long Beach State in 5, 16-25, 25-21, 25-23, 9-25, and 15-11. So, prior to this, Long Beach State actually had to go 5 with, with Bakersfield. They had to go 5 with Cal State Bakersfield, which Long Beach State prevailed in, because Natalie Glenn took over in that 5th set. Kinda. But in this matchup, Long Beach State did not really have the better of the luck in those two matches. Now, if you look at the box score, this is something I always look at when it comes to big time wins from teams that aren't really, favored to win against other teams. CSUN was 2-14 going into this matchup. And they did not have one 5-set win. They were 0-8 in 5-set matches. And they were winless in Big West Conference play. CSUN was able to pull off the win in 5 sets. And here's the thing. You look at the box score, CSUN got outdone in every category, except for hitting errors and service errors. As Long Beach State barely outdid them in those categories. As Long Beach State outdid them in kills 58-42. They out-hit them in hitting percentage 252 to 159. They had more service aces than them, 12 to 8. They had more blocks than CSUN as a team, 14 to 9. They outdug them 52 to 40. So how does Long Beach State wind up losing that? I mean, yes, it went 5, and that 3rd set, which was a nail-biter, and yes, Long Beach State wound up falling behind and not recovering, didn't help them. But you have to wonder, how did Long Beach State lose that one? And yes, CSUN did hit 344 in set number 3. But one big reason why Long Beach State wound up losing, and you got to look really close on the box score, is that Savannah Chacon, their libero, only played 2 sets. Now, something I normally do on Mondays is I normally go to the pre-week press conference at Long Beach State where Tyler Hildebrand talks about the week in review from last week and then talks about this week, and the media asks questions about volleyball and whatnot, and volleyball and the team and how they're doing and what's going on and whatnot. So I really, unfortunately, could not be there because, unfortunately, I had work. I worked 2 to 6, which was a problem for me. And sadly, I was unable to ask about Savannah Chacon. Now, I'm not sure if Long Beach State has released this post-game or the pre-week press conference, but I will also just say, I'm not trying to take anything away from CSUN. CSUN was long overdue for a 5-set win. However, Long Beach State did release the weekly press conference for Week 8, which, I guess I could play right now, but I won't play it. Maybe I'll play it during the break and see why Savannah Chacon only played 2 sets. But Savannah Chacon had 9 digs, and she only played 2 sets. It could have been injury, but I was not at this match because I was covering high school girls volleyball. But not having Savannah Chacon is big time right there, just because she is kind of the anchor for Long Beach State's defense. And I'm not trying to make excuses for Long Beach State, but you just cannot lose to CSUN. And this is the 3rd time Long Beach State has had something great happen to them, only to see them follow up with something unfortunate happen to them. Remember, they beat number 1 Texas in week 1, only to see them get swept by LMU. And then, starting off Big West Conference play, they wound up beating Cal Poly in 5, which was a great comeback win, which I think they were down 6-1, 7-1 in set 5, and then they wound up winning set 5, 15-13, only to lose to Santa Barbara in 4, which Santa Barbara has not won at Long Beach State in over 10 years, back in 2011. So you have that going for them as well. And then you have to remember last Friday, they beat Hawaii. Correction, they swept Hawaii. And then they have to go 5 with Bakersfield, which, no offense to Bakersfield, I love Giovanna Mello, but her team isn't up. Her team isn't like up in that upper echelon along with Hawaii and Santa Barbara and Long Beach and whatnot. And then also, Long Beach State has to go 5 with CSUN again, and then they lose. So, Long Beach State has to find consistency. And this is no knock on them. I try not to knock this team too much, but you look at them having to go up and down and up and down. It's like, you have to find a level of consistency, because if you can't, what does that do to your RPI? What does that do to your team's confidence? Because if you have to go up and down and up and down, and then you eventually are up, and then you're like the 3 seed in the Big West Conference Tournament, and then you lose to the 6 seed, that kills your chances of possibly making the NCAA tournament. And that just can't happen to you. Because Long Beach, I think, in my opinion, they can make the NCAA tournament regardless of whether they win the Big West Conference tournament or not, or if they win the Big West Conference regular season title or not. I'm not trying to defend Long Beach, but you just can't lose these type of matches, because there's no defending losing to a 2-win CSUN team. And I give a lot of credit to CSUN. They earned that match, even though the statistics don't show it. CSUN was actually pretty balanced, as Perry Starkey led the way with 10 kills. Yes, 10 kills was the leading kill leader for CSUN. And then Carissa Barron had 9 kills, Taylor, as well as Tatiana Turgeon, and then Taylor Hunter added 8 kills. And then Perry Starkey added 12 digs right there. So, Tyler Hildebrand is going to have to go back to the lab and get these girls' minds right, because that CSUN loss really hurts their RPI. And going into last week, Long Beach State actually had the best RPI of any Big West Conference team. Now that's going to change big time. Anyway, jumping over to Sunday, this was the big headline right here. And this is probably the last notable match that I have to go over. Stanford won on the road against number 3 Stanford, won on the road against number 4 Washington State in 4 sets, 31-29, 29-27, 23-25, and 25-18. So Stanford was led by Aaliyah Rubin, who had 21 kills and 10 digs, while Kendall Kipp added 20 kills. Katie Baird had 18 kills, only 1 hitting error, and she hit 486, while McKenna Vicini added 9 kills, 0 hitting errors for a hitting percentage of .529. I have heard murmurs that Sammy Francis is out, and with McKenna Vicini, I want to say she's middle, but if she is playing middle, then that unlocks a new weapon for the Cardinal. For Washington State, Katie Ryan and Iman Isanovich each had 14 kills. Ryan hit 391. Isanovich had 14 digs. PM Timmer had 11 kills. Well, all right, I'm going to try to see if I can get this right. Magda Yelarova. It's not Magda Jelarova. It's Magda Yelarova. I want to say that was the best one. Magda Yelarova. She had 10 kills and 6 blocks. If I did not pronounce that wrong, I am sorry, Washington State fans. So, my takeaway for Stanford beating Washington State is this is a huge win, and Stanford is not ready to pass the torch just yet. The Cardinal is still good as advertised, and there's a reason why they're the number 3 team in the nation. I didn't want to believe it at first, but honestly, Florida, without Alexis Stuckey, they're kind of like a broken mirror. Once it's cracked, it's kind of tough to repair. And that's no knock on Florida. Obviously, injuries happen and whatnot. For Washington State, this is a tough loss, as obviously they had won like 14 in a row, and then losing to the big dog or big sister in Stanford is a tough one. And to me, I really think that this could have been the match which could have really proven Washington State as a true contender. But that said, I think Washington State can still contend for an NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship. I think Washington State, in my mind, is at least an Elite 8 team. They can be a Final Four team if they play their cards right. However, they still have a long ways to go, and honestly, can they really take down the likes of Wisconsin and, heck, maybe Nebraska? That all depends. But that is that for all of the notable matchups that happened in Week 7 and the upsets and whatnot. Other notables that happened was number 23 Arizona State swept UCLA on the road, or swept UCLA for the first time since 2009. Yeah, tough weekend for UCLA as the Bruins wound up losing to Arizona on Friday. So, what are you doing over there, Alfie? Because I really want UCLA to do great. Because even though I'm more of an SC guy, I really like what UCLA is bringing to the table with their athletes and their coaches. I really think they can make it to the NCAA tournament. But now, and I even said that UCLA was going to make the NCAA tournament. Now it's looking like that's not going to happen. So the Bruins have really got to get something brewing here. Otherwise, it's going to be another year without the NCAA tournament. Anyway, number 8, Texas beat Kansas twice this past week, which is no surprise. Cal Poly has won 5 in a row as they took down UC Riverside on Saturday, as well as beating UC Davis on Thursday. So, like I said, ever since they lost to Long Beach State, they've won 5 in a row. And Hawaii is back in second place, or they're lurking on that first place spot, as they've rebounded nicely from their loss to Long Beach State. So, the moral of the story, lose to Long Beach State, you'll see better results. Except for Indiana, which wound up losing to the likes of Washington and UCLA. But that's an exception. But Indiana is still having a fantastic season regardless. Also, the last thing we need to go over is the Citadel is still undefeated. They are 18-0, as the only other 2 teams that are undefeated along with the Citadel are, you guessed it, number 1 Wisconsin and number 2 Nebraska. But that's cool that the Citadel is still undefeated. So good job to the Citadel, the Bulldogs. So that is that for the NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 7 recap. Now let's jump on into a little high school girls volleyball, as last Saturday I was able to cover Day 2 of the Redondo Power Classic. And I'm only going to go over Day 2. I'm not going to go over pool play and what happened in Day 1, just because I think I'd bore you all to death. So the teams that made the Redondo Power Classic Top 16 are Mira Costa, West Torrance, Clovis West, Long Beach Wilson, Elisa Niguel, Palos Verdes, Thousand Oaks, Bishop Gorman of Las Vegas, Redondo Union, Rancho Cucamonga, Marymount, Lakewood, Long Beach Poly, Liberty, South Torrance, and Los Alamitos. So, round of 16 results. I don't really have the results just because I kind of snapped a picture of the Mira Costa bracket without them posting the scores. Thanks, Costa. I appreciate that. Gosh dang it. Anyway, Mira Costa beat West Torrance. Long Beach Wilson beat Clovis West. Palos Verdes beat Aliso Niguel. Bishop Gorman beat Thousand Oaks. Redondo Union beat Rancho Cucamonga. Marymount beat Lakewood. Long Beach Poly beat Liberty, which I got to see. And then Los Alamitos beat South Torrance. Then the quarterfinals We had Mira Costa beating Long Beach Wilson, Bishop Gorman beating Palos Verdes, Marymount kind of upsetting Redondo Union because Redondo was the number 3 overall seed of this tournament, and Redondo was ranked ahead of Marymount, but yeah, it's kind of an upset. And Los Alamitos edging Long Beach Poly, which is coached by Dave Huber, the friend of the show and former guest of Set Point. Then we got to go to the semifinals, which I was able to cover just because it was at Mira Costa. And I have to give a shout out to Tommy Chaffins for getting me there. Otherwise, I would have had a pickle of a time trying to get there in an ample amount of time because I did not know what time the semifinals were going to start. What I kind of didn't like was that both semifinals were playing at the same time. But honestly, it's to avoid one team having more rest than the other. So Mira Costa took down Bishop Gorman 25-12 and 25-21. Then the other semifinal, Marymount took down Los Alamitos 25-22 and 25-18, I want to say. I actually don't remember the second set, but I do remember that Marymount did sweep Los Alamitos. And honestly, Marymount was it was 25-18. I'm actually proud of myself. But honestly, Marymount was kind of the darling of that tournament. And Marymount was really on one, as I was very impressed by Marymount and how they were able to, keep it together. Going into that tournament and prior to that tournament, they actually lost to their league rival Alemany, which hadn't really been happened in a while. I don't even know if they had lost to Alemany prior to this season, but Marymount has really responded well, and I think Marymount really has put themselves in a position to maybe make the CIF Southern Section Division 1 bracket, which is big time because only the top 8 teams advance to that Division 1 bracket, while everyone else gets dumped into Division 2. And then the final, Mira Costa kind of ended Marymount's Cinderella run through the Redondo Power Classic as Mira Costa just stomped on Marymount 25-12 and 25-13. Honestly, Mira Costa looked like a little mini JV, a little mini college volleyball team. Like, they were serving tough, and Charlie Furbringer is ready for NCAA women's volleyball action. She is heading to Wisconsin. She got tournament MVP. Audrey Flanagan, who I was referring to as Kate Flanagan, I don't know why I was referring to her as that, but she was dynamite as well. Honestly, Mira Costa, they were labeled to be young and rebuilding, but honestly, their seniors have really stepped up. And whoever was referring to Mira Costa as rebuilding, you might want to shred those receipts ASAP because, well, Costa's not going to shred the receipts. So there is no CIF Southern Section Girls Volleyball Coaches poll for this week, as the next poll will be will actually be tomorrow. So as of this recording, there is no CIF Southern Section Girls Volleyball poll. But tomorrow, the day after this recording, there will be a CIF Southern Section Girls Volleyball poll. So an interview that I did not get a chance to post was on Instagram and on X was me interviewing Dave Huber, friend of the show and a former Set Point guest, and head coach of Los Alamitos. So here's a little bit of an exclusive interview with Los Alamitos girls volleyball coach Dave Huber following his team's run through the tournament, which saw Los Alamitos get third place.
All right, this is Teran Rodriguez of Set Point with Dave Huber, friend of the show and Los Alamitos girls volleyball head coach, following his team's tournament run in the Redondo Power Classic. All right, Dave, obviously it was a tough end to the tournament, losing to a talented Marymount team, but your team really showed some stride and some grit and determination. What can you say about your team's overall effort this weekend?
Played a lot of volleyball against some good teams, had a match Thursday, 3 matches yesterday, 3 more today. So a lot of volleyball and, some of the top ranked teams in the southern section here. So I like where we're at. Didn't get one there at the end, but I like where we're at.
Now, obviously, there's all tournaments when it comes to this tournament, but who do you think stood out in this tournament, and who do you think was also under the radar?
We got some pretty consistent contributions from our middles today, in particular Elon, making some plays at the net defensively as well as scoring. Ashley was pretty consistent throughout the course of the tournament. And, Kaya does a lot for us, setting and passing and hitting. So, some of our experienced returning starters have stepped up pretty consistently here at the end of the season. But somebody that's come on pretty strong for us is sophomore Bryn Minter. Playing kind of a hybrid role, left, middle, right, across the front row. Has had some pretty big swings the last week and a half for us.
And then you're running a 6-2 offense for the most part. What can you say about that, and how successful has it been for you all this season?
We're trying to get our best kids on the court and maximize the abilities that we got. So, running the 6-2, but kind of having where, Kaya still passes and hits has been good for us so far this year. Like I said, able to maximize what she can do and, give some teams some different looks that they have to defend as well.
And you close out the regular season at home against Newport Harbor. Obviously, you want to win that to stay in the Division I cut. What's it going to take down another team named the Sailors?
Newport will be ready to play, I'm sure, and they've been pretty scrappy defensively. They get after it and they'll scramble for some points. So for us, being disciplined, it's senior night, so we'll have some kids being honored. So getting past that, getting onto the game, and hopefully we're able to take care of business.
It's always a battle between Newport Harbor and Los Alamitos. Listen, Dave, thank you for your time. Congratulations on a great tournament run. We hope to see you sometime down the road in the CIF playoffs.
Thanks, man.
So that was my post-tournament interview with Dave Huber, Los Alamitos girls volleyball coach and friend of Set Point. All right, so here's my thing for Los Alamitos. They played really well in the tournament. Yes, they had a little bit of a close call against Long Beach Poly, but honestly, they're still a team that no one wants to meet in the CIF Southern Section playoffs. And I know they have another matchup against Newport Harbor. As of this recording, they play tomorrow, but they should be, no offense to Newport Harbor, but they should be able to handle Newport Harbor all that well. The only way Los Alamitos loses, and the only way they beat them, they get beat, is if they beat themselves. And Newport Harbor, it's always a battle, like I said in the recording, but as long as Los Alamitos does not get caught up in senior night and whatnot, they should be fine. And they just can't look ahead, because if you look ahead and if they underestimate Newport Harbor, they're going to be on the wrong side of the score. And one thing they just can't do, and the one thing they have to really watch out for, is Newport Harbor has nothing to lose, because they're tied for last in the league, because Los Alamitos, Newport Harbor, Huntington Beach, and Edison, they play in a 4-team league. Huntington is basically locked up first place. Los Alamitos can't finish anywhere higher or lower than second place, and Newport Harbor and Edison are basically at the bottom of the barrel. So for Newport Harbor, they got nothing to lose, and they can only better their RPI or their strength of schedule with a win. So they're probably going to go out guns a-blazing, because the win can only help them out in terms of applying for an at-large spot, in terms of the Division II playoffs. But I am looking forward to seeing what Los Alamitos can do in the CIF Southern Section playoffs. Whether they're in Division I or Division II, I really look forward to seeing what they can do. Especially, and Huntington Beach, that's another team I need to go over. And Los Alamitos does not have too many bad losses. Their only losses are to Marymount, which is not a bad loss. They have 2 losses to Huntington Beach, which were in league. They lost to Mira Costa in Hawaii, which is nowhere near a bad loss. And then they lost to Cornerstone Christian in the semifinals of the Ann King tournament, which is also not a bad loss. So Los Alamitos has 0 bad losses. The only way they get a bad loss is if they lose to Newport Harbor. Then the committee has a big decision on their hands whether they put Los Alamitos in Division I or Division II. Because if Los Alamitos goes to Division II, I can guarantee you they win that division easy. If they stick in Division 1, they'll contend. They'll for sure contend, and they're going to give teams a run for their money regardless of who said teams are. And they have some familiarity with certain teams like Mira Costa and whatnot. The only teams they don't have ultimate familiarity is with Sierra Canyon and Mater Dei and a couple others. And Redondo Union. It would have been great to see Redondo and Los Al lock horns with one another, but unfortunately Redondo wound up losing. And that's another team that kind of is going to have a decision to make in terms of the committee. Redondo Union is probably going to fall out of that top 8, and Tommy Chaffins and I talked about this prior, off the record. Well, outside of the tournament. He and I were basically saying, I think the loss basically knocks us out of the top 8. I think it's going to put him at 9, and that's going to put him in Division 2, which isn't bad, which is what happened with them last year. But let's say Redondo Union manages to split their 2 games this week. I think they have Peninsula of Palos Verdes, and then they have Mira Costa at home. And let's say they split those 2 games. At best, Redondo Union is probably 9, if not. If they get 8, then that could be the worst thing for them. But it also could be the best thing for them. And if they also beat Mira Costa, then the committee also has another big decision on their hands with Redondo Union. But that's going to do it for all the high school girls volleyball chatter. We're going to take ourselves a quick break. When we come back, we've got some USA men's volleyball to discuss. And we've also got some AVP volleyball to discuss. And then we have week number 8 of the NCAA women's volleyball season to discuss. Keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Hello, ladies and centers. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host. Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always willing to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernick, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows on the network as we are back with the second half of our show. All right, so let us discuss some USA men's volleyball happenings as of late. So, as of last week, the U.S. men's national volleyball team was on its trip to the road to Paris, as they were basically doing all that it can to qualify for the 2024 Olympics, which is cool. Before I continue, I actually do want to give a shout out to the chat room. Adam Karnick popped into the chat room. He said, "Good evening, Teran," and I feel horrible for not acknowledging him during my little everythings and whatnot. And all that I needed to discuss. So I apologize to Adam if I ignored him, but I had to basically run through everything because I have only 30 minutes left until our next show, and I don't want to basically overlap him. So, as for the U.S. men's national team, they qualified for the Olympics, which is no surprise. All right, but for real this time, they managed to actually go undefeated in a pool play as they managed to finish their Olympic qualifier as they managed to beat Japan yesterday in 5 sets. But it was kind of a mini round robin tournament as it wasn't really a tournament. It didn't have like a final. It just was the top certain teams, like the top 3 teams in each pool qualify for the Olympics. And I have to give a shout to friend of the show, John Sparrow, and his coaching staff and the team for qualifying for the Olympics. So this all happened on last Saturday, aka the 4-year anniversary of Set Point. They managed to give a good present to Set Point as they managed to sweep Egypt in 3 sets, 25-20, 25-16, and 25-19. Then the day after, October 1st, they swept Finland, 25-17, 25-14, and 25-17. Then on October 3rd, the U.S. defeated Turkey in 4 sets, 25-17, 26-28, 32-30, and 25-20. Then, the day after that, the U.S. took down Tunisia in straight sets, 25-11, 25-12, and 25-14. Then on October 6th, the U.S. took down Slovenia in 4 sets, 25-18, 21-25, 25-20, and 25-18. Then Serbia, this was the match where they had to clinch. If they win, then they're in. They swept Serbia 25-18, 25-18, and 25-17 as they wound up clinching the spot into the U.S. or the Olympics, the 2024 Olympics that are going to be held in Paris. And then lastly, to close off the road to the Olympics, they outlasted Japan in 5 sets, 25-19, 22-25, 19-25, 25-23, and 15-12. And it was quite the barn burner as Japan really brought it. But honestly, the two teams were so evenly matched. The two teams actually had the same number of kills with 64. And Japan outdid them in aces 6-2, and they had 3 less unforced errors. But the U.S. hit 405 to Japan's 274, which is nice and all. So, all in all, the U.S. wound up winning, and they were awarded the traditional World Cup for winning the group. So, excellent work to the U.S., and Japan has hosted this event every year from 1965 to 2019. Just a little Snapple fun fact right there. And the U.S. last won the World Cup in 2015, so this was just a round-robin format. This wasn't an actual tournament, but still, winning this whole thing is just big time right there, especially since some of their national team just wound up winning a previous tournament. So the U.S. is dancing. They will be going to the Olympics, and boy howdy, it is a great feeling. I had no doubt they would win. I'm not trying to be the I called it guy, but honestly, I knew the U.S. would be winning and qualifying for the Olympics. Just because they have some pretty darn good players on their team. They've got a lot of experience, and they've got a wise head coach by the name of, I don't know, John Speraw, friend of the show, and a national champion for UCLA's men's volleyball team. And he also guided UC Irvine to a couple of national championships on the men's side as well. Actually, I think it was just 1. Well, it could have been 2, but I'll also count. So, great job to the U.S. men's national team, as I might as well just read off every player on their team. Matt Anderson, Aaron Russell, Jeff Gendrick, Kyle Ensing, TJ DeFalco, Kyle D'Agostino. If I mispronounce any of these names, I apologize. Micah Christensen, Max Holt, Micah Ma, Thomas Jaschke, Garrett Muaguatutia, Taylor Averill, David Smith, and Eric Shoji. And like I said, John Speraw is the head coach. Matt Furbringer is the assistant coach. I also forgot to mention, yes, Matt Furbringer, the same Furbringer who is the father of Charlie Furbringer, who won the MVP of the Redondo Power Classic. Javier Weber is the assistant coach for the U.S. men's national team. Nate No is the performance analyst and technical coordinator, as well as the team leader. And Aaron Brock is the athletic trainer. Have to give him some love as well. So that is that right there for the U.S. men's national team, who is qualified for the 2024 Olympics in Paris. And that is awesome sauce. Shout out to Marcus Losgreat. He says, "Oh snap, Marcus Losgreat has returned to set point. It's been way too long, brother. It has been way too long, Marcus." And Larry B pops in the chat room. He says, "Here. I'm glad you are here, Larry, and I'm glad you took a break from watching the Raiders and the Packers on Monday Night Football." Anyway, moving on to the AVP, as there is a tournament this weekend. Yes, there is an AVP tournament. The AVP did not die. I'm just kidding. That's not funny. That's not funny. That's not something to joke at. Okay, so there is a tournament that's happening, as this is the last AVP tournament of the season. And I don't know if I'm going to be attending as a member of the media or not. Anyway, so the last AVP tournament of the season, because I don't know what the heck happened to the championships, it is going to be going back to beautiful Southern California, and it will be located in Laguna Beach. So I will be attending this tournament. And honestly, it's the last tournament of the AVP season. Of course I'm going to be attending, and it's in my own backyard. Yes, I may have to go a little ways, but I'm not going to miss the last AVP tournament, especially if I'm able to attend in person. And whether I attend as a member of the media or not, I'm still going to try my darndest to try to get some good interviews with some players and whatnot. And I will find out what the heck happened to the AVP championships, because I'm disappointed. We don't get the AVP championships like we did last year. Last year, maybe it's because they didn't have like a television provider or whatnot, or a streaming provider, but that's still no excuse. Like, you gotta have some place to have the championships. It's just sad because it was something I was looking forward to. It was something I looked forward to last year. Maybe they just couldn't find a location and just say, oh, let's go here. It just sucks. They could have just... Why couldn't they just have it at another location that they had it at? Maybe they were thinking of having it at Phoenix, but then they said, nah. And then Phoenix maybe just shoved them away and said, nope, we don't want you here. Go away. So, this is just the million-dollar question of why the AVP Championships never happened this year. And it's food for thought, honestly, because I really would have liked to have seen the AVP Championships. But it is what it is. They should have just had it in Huntington Beach just because reasons. That would have drawn a big crowd. Like, come on. Anyway, so that is that for the it's not it for the AVP tournament. That's it for the reason why AVP Championships are here. Why the AVP Championships were never here. But as for the event details, here's the event details. It's from October 13th through October 15th. And sadly, I won't be able to attend the first day, but I will be able to attend Saturday and Sunday. Yes, I will be able to attend Championship Sunday because reasons. I finally got the day off from work, and I even had to request it off. Anyway, so the event details read, the Laguna Beach Open is finally back! Yes, there's an exclamation point at the end. With beautiful weather, don't jinx it, AVP, and more than 7 miles of unique coves and beaches, AVP fans have plenty of reasons to get caught in the lure of this famous California beach town. We're ready for new challenges and new champions. So sadly, there is no releasing of this whole thing. There is no tournament list, which that kind of sucks. I mean, I want to, have a proper preview for this because this is the last time we're going to be having an AVP tournament before the AVP off season. But unfortunately, there is no entry list, there is no tournament brackets. So AVP, you're really dropping the ball here. Fortunately, Rob Aspero, being the nice guy that he is, who posted this on Instagram, he kind of posted the seeds as the number one overall seed on the men's side for the Laguna Beach Open is Sean Cook and Cody Caldwell, as the finalized entries and seeding will be available on Monday, October 9th. That's today. Yeah, the AVP kind of lied to us. Gosh dang it, AVP. Anyway, but for the time being, according to Rob Aspero and according to the Laguna Beach Open and its Twitter or its Instagram account, Sean Cook and Cody Caldwell are the number one seed. And then Megan J. Rice, aka the one from Redondo Beach or Hermosa Beach, and Brooke Bauer are the number one seed on the women's side. The number two seed on the women's side is Teran Rodriguez and Deanna Kraft. And then the number two seed on the men's side is Kyle Friend and Timothy Brewster. That's pretty much all the seeds I can really give you because there is no entry list, which it really sucks because I really would have liked to have previewed this really nice. I would have really liked to go in depth on this, but sadly the AVP decided to not get the memo and put the entry list out on this day. But it's all good. I will do my best to basically give you all the content because I don't just cover NCAA volleyball. I cover everything volleyball. Anyway, I'm being too melodramatic as that's basically your top two seeds on the men's and women's side. Number one seed on the women's side, Megan J. Rice and Brooke Bauer. And then number two seed on the women's side is Teran Rodriguez and Deanna Kraft. Number one seed on the men's side, Kyle Caldwell and Sean Cook. Number two seed on the men's side, Kyle Friend and Tim Brewster. All right, that is that for the AVP portion of the show. See you all on Saturday and Sunday at the Laguna Beach Open. Y'all want to take pictures or want me to sign autographs? I'll do so. All right, now let's go into the Week 8 preview for the NCAA women's volleyball season, and then I will send you all on your way. Or if you're still listening on iSports Radio, I will send you all to Where You At Sports Chat with Joey Pagart. So the top volleyball matches to watch for in Week 8 start on Wednesday as number 15 Purdue hits the road to Bloomington to take on Indiana. And I say the word hits the road very loosely because they're not going far. All right. So remember when I said Indiana is really good and they're not to be slept on and they're much better than that Big Ten record shows? I think this is going to be a sneaky good matchup because if they could push Nebraska to 4 and they could push Penn State to 5, I could really see what they could do to Purdue. And this is a rivalry matchup, so all bets are off when it comes to this matchup. I really want to see what the Hoosiers can do against Purdue. So that's that for the top matchups to watch for on Wednesday. Then we jump to Thursday. Nothing really overly notable, but if you look a little closer in the state of California, you get two sneaky good matchups as you've got San Diego at LMU on Thursday in the West Coast Conference. So the Toreros are nowhere near as good as last year's team that made it all the way to the Final Four, but they're still good in their conference. Meanwhile, for LMU, they only have one conference loss, which was to Pepperdine. They've kind of been reverse sweeping everybody, and they've also been pulling out wins over teams that they should beat, which is good. But now LMU gets a nice little test at Gersten Pavilion against the Toreros. I really think LMU can take down the Toreros, and here's something to note. When it comes to LMU versus San Diego, the Toreros more often than not struggle on the road against LMU. I would not be surprised if LMU gave San Diego fits in this matchup. I really think with Kari Geisberger, or as their head coach calls her, Riri, I think she could really take over the match. And then they also got Michelle Schaefer, who could do it all for the most part. Sam Hastings is a freaking beast defensively. So honestly, I think for LMU, I would not be surprised if they win this one. I've seen LMU play, and they are scrappy as heck. And then San Diego, they have good players. I think they can definitely make this a match, but they just can't waltz on in there thinking, oh, we're going to crush them. Nope, this LMU team is pretty good. And if they want to have any sort of chance at making the NCAA tournament, they got to, pull off a win or two against some of the top dogs in the West Coast Conference. If there's ever a year to win the West Coast Conference, this is the year for LMU. And that goes double for Pepperdine, too. But that's not until next week. Then also on Thursday, we have Cal Poly at UC Santa Barbara as we jump to the Big West Conference. It's not a week of NCAA women's volleyball with set point if I don't make note of the Big West Conference. So the Mustangs have won 5 in a row, while the Gauchos are still undefeated in Big West Conference play. Something's got to give here, as those Gauchos, they're still hot and ready to go, and Michelle Owobite has them rolling like a boulder. But Cal Poly, they still have Tommy Stockham, and they've caught some fire, and they've got some good strides going on ever since they lost to Long Beach State. My thing is this. Can Cal Poly win on the road? It's so easy to win in Mott Gymnasium, for the most part. But winning in the Thunderdome, can they do that? That is the big question right there. I really think it's going to be tricky to beat UC Santa Barbara at UC Santa Barbara. And Santa Barbara only has 2 losses, one of which was to a top 5 team. So there's no shame in that. So outside of that other loss to Drake, Santa Barbara has been kicking butt and taking everyone's names. And they even have a win over Utah, and they also have a win over Iowa State. They also have a win over New Mexico State. So Santa Barbara, here's something I don't know if I've mentioned, but I think Santa Barbara, regardless of if they win the Big West Conference tournament in its inaugural season, I think they make the NCAA tournament. I think they, Long Beach State, and Hawaii make the NCAA tournament. Whether Santa Barbara wins the tournament, whether they make it as an at-large, as a runner-up, or whether they somehow lose in the semifinals to like Long Beach State or Cal Poly, I think they make the NCAA tournament just because I think those Gauchos have a great resume. The only way they don't make the NCAA tournament is if they stack up too many bad losses to like Cal Poly, or not Cal Poly, CSUN and Riverside, and maybe Irvine. But I think Santa Barbara has no way that there's no way that they're going to have any form of bad losses because they would have suffered them as of last week or this week. Then jumping over to Friday, we have the match of the week, in my opinion. Number 8 Pitt at number 6 Louisville. All right, ACC action. Pitt is only one of 2 ACC teams that are still undefeated. The other I'll get into in a little bit. As those Pitt Panthers, now they got to face Big Sister in Louisville. Even though Louisville has that loss to NC State, they're still ranked ahead of them. But if Pitt does take down Louisville, then this makes things really interesting because Louisville would have 2 losses and Pitt would have 2 legs up on the Cardinals. That would be very, very interesting for the Panthers. I think it's doable, but something you have to realize is that they're playing on the road in Louisville, which is probably the KFC Yum Center. That's why I have this as match of the week, because it's 2 top 10 teams in the same conference, and boy howdy, I really look forward to this one. And if Pitt wins this one, they are for sure the real deal. If Louisville wins this one, then the ACC gets really interesting, but I don't see Pitt dropping if they somehow lose this one. The win can only help them. A loss, unless they unless they get bageled by Louisville, I don't see them dropping. And then staying within the ACC, we have Florida State at number 11, Georgia Tech. All right, I know I haven't really been ultimately positive when it comes to Florida State, and I forgot Florida State was still undefeated. I'm sorry, Florida State fans, including you, Mike Pat, my buddy. But I will say this. You have my attention, Florida State. Now I'm watching you when it comes to this matchup against Georgia Tech. And I'm watching you, Georgia Tech. You've gone 5 sets the past 3 matches. You had to go 5 with Virginia last Sunday. You better be darn prepared for Florida State because these Noles are actually for real. And Chris Poole is a fantastic coach. You got to remember, he just picked up win number 900, and he's only one of 8 coaches to win 900 Division I matches, if that makes sense. If I messed it up, then I apologize. But regardless, the dude knows how to win. And Florida State is knocking on the door when it comes to needing to be ranked. I would not be surprised if Florida State gave it their all against Georgia Tech. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this one went 5. Considering Georgia Tech has really struggled with the likes of Wake Forest and Virginia, and they also lost to Pitt, I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia Tech has to go 5 with the Noles. So I'm keeping an eye on Georgia Tech this week, because if they have to go 5, advantage Florida State. Because they've actually, even though they did lose to Florida, they have a lot of 5-set match experience. Jumping down to the Big 12, we have number 7 Texas taking on number 21 Houston. This matchup is also going to be on Saturday. All right, so for Houston and for Texas, here's my thing. Texas is now going to be playing outside of Gregory Gymnasium. I'm certain Texas is going to win this matchup, but I would not want to underestimate Houston. Houston has got good players across the board, for the most part. They've even got a pretty darn good libero in, I think her name's Kate Georgiadis. Not entirely sure, but honestly, she's a freaking phenomenal libero, and she even went Bills Mafia on a table in the NCAA tournament. Regardless, if Texas thinks they're going to be getting an easy matchup with Houston, I don't really think they should walk in with that mindset. They should reevaluate that mindset, and they should really think, let's actually look at this matchup as Houston can actually beat us. Because Texas is a good team. I think they are officially back in terms of women's volleyball. But Houston is sneaky good. But I will also give Texas this. They're taking down these ranked teams left and right in terms of the Big 12. They took down Kansas. They took down BYU. Next up is Houston. And if they continue this rate, I think they could, hence the word could, possibly be on the path of winning another Big 12 championship. Going down to the SEC, we have number 22 Auburn taking on number 10 Tennessee. All right, Auburn, you won on the road last week. Now you got to win on the road this week, as you are hitting the road to the music state to take on Tennessee. And I kind of got to speed this up. All right, so for Auburn, they were able to win last week against Florida, and they were able to win last week against South Carolina. Now let's see them handle Tennessee. Tennessee, in my opinion, is going to be a big test. And I want to say Tennessee is undefeated in the SEC standings, in my opinion, just because I don't think there's another team that's undefeated, because I know Kentucky lost one, Florida is no longer undefeated, and unless I'm missing someone, Arkansas is undefeated. I forgot Arkansas is undefeated. I'm sorry. But Tennessee and Arkansas are undefeated, so my apologies, Razorback fans. And they only have 2 losses. And you want to know what's the common thing about Tennessee and Arkansas? Their losses are to Wisconsin. But back to Auburn and Tennessee, I will say this. Auburn's going to need to play some really good volleyball if they want to take down Tennessee, because Tennessee is really proving themselves as a top 10 team. And honestly, I like seeing the whole different variety when it comes to the SEC. It's not just Florida and Kentucky just ruling the conference with an iron fist. It's basically other teams getting into the fray. And then, jumping back to the Big West Conference, we have 2 sneaky good matchups. We have UC Davis at Long Beach State and Hawaii at UC Santa Barbara. All right, so for Davis, they're on a 2-game losing skid, and they're playing at Long Beach State. Like I mentioned before, they're now in the thick of their Big West Conference the thick of their Big West Conference schedule. For Long Beach State, they had a bad loss to CSUN, which for Savannah Chacon, it looked like, I was told, and according to the press conference from Tyler Hildebrand, some of the girls on the team got food poisoning, and it looked like Savannah, unfortunately, did not have the best game, and she was held out the rest of the way because, sadly, she just couldn't hold it in. And unfortunately for Savannah, the food poisoning kind of caught up to her. So, sadly for Long Beach State, they kind of took that L. But they have another chance to redeem themselves as they take on a challenging UC Davis team, and they have to execute in all phases, because Davis is not going to be taking it easy on them. And then as for Hawaii, UC Santa Barbara, all right, for Santa Barbara, if they win this and they beat Cal Poly, they have a good shot at being my team of the week. Unless something big and drastic happens. But here's the thing for Santa Barbara. They really have to defend home court here. I think it's doable, but Hawaii is so close to first place, they could taste it. And Hawaii is still stacked across the board. And the thing about Santa Barbara is they're the only undefeated team in the Big West Conference. I mean, that target is growing big on their back. This is probably the biggest week for Santa Barbara, as well as Hawaii, which I'll be getting into in a little bit. But for Santa Barbara, this is the week they have to come up big. Because if they go 5, I don't know if they could survive against Cal Poly or Hawaii. Those 2 teams are legit. Then jumping over to Saturday, we have number 13 Penn State at number 2 Nebraska. I really wanted to make this match of the week, but there's one problem. I think Nebraska is a bit better. And I say a bit better a little bit loosely just because they're miles better than Penn State. I think Penn State on paper looks good, but when you match up against Nebraska, Nebraska puts so much pressure on you in terms of serving and defense and blocking and doing everything. And Lexi Rodriguez is a freaking beast in terms of digging the ball. And also, the match is at the Bob Devaney Center. Do we really think Penn State has a shot at winning at the Bob Devaney Center? No. Okay, but jokes aside, I think it's going to be a great match. I just don't think Nebraska's losing at Nebraska. I just don't think Nebraska's going to lose at the Bob, just because they're just too good to be losing to Penn State. And Penn State, they are good on paper. They're so much better than last year's team, even though I think last year's team was pretty solid as well. But Nebraska, even though they're young, and they're scary young, I think Nebraska is going to just outdo them in every facet of the game. And that's no knock on Penn State. I think Penn State is still having a good season. It's just that Nebraska, even though they had a close call against Purdue, I think Nebraska is they just have the defense. And that, to me, I think is going to be the difference maker. Then closing off Saturday's notable matchups, we have Hawaii at Cal Poly, another sneaky good Big West Conference matchup. I promise you this is the last Big West Conference matchup. I bet you everyone who doesn't want to hear the Big West Conference is like, oh my god, shut up with Big West Conference. Alright, but this is another big time matchup, and Cal Poly, you gotta defend home court, because if you don't, you are pretty much donezo, and your Big West Conference regular season title hopes are, I wouldn't say you're donezo, but you're going to be so further behind, because let's say Santa Barbara goes 2-0 this weekend, and then you go 0-2. You're going to be further back of Santa Barbara. While it's not bad because you've still got the tournament, it's not going to be good in terms of seeding. Then Sunday, we've got number 19 Arizona State at number 5 Oregon. Then Miami at number 11 Georgia Tech, which is sneaky good. Hopefully there's no mishaps with the Miami coach, like in the football game. And then number 23 Kentucky at number 10 Tennessee. That is going to be a great matchup. And this is the first time in a while that we're going to be seeing Kentucky-Tennessee round 2. And I would not be surprised if we get some fireworks in that matchup. Just don't firework it in the gym. But Arizona State, Oregon, that I think is a sneaky good matchup just because I really think that it's a big test for Arizona State. You lost to Stanford, but let's see how you handle playing on the road in Matthew Knight Arena against Oregon. And then, like I said, Kentucky, Tennessee, what more could you ask with that rivalry? So it's going to be a fun one, and those are my top matchups to watch for. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Set Point. Let's drop the beat, because we got to dip up out of here, because we got another show on IE Sports Radio. You feel me? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Set Point. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. I will be back on my normal time next week at 6 p.m. Pacific time, not at 6:30 p.m. This week was kind of hectic because work scheduled me until 6 p.m., which did not work out for me. But it is all good. This is only a one-time thing, and it will never happen again. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. I might not do SoCal this week, but it's not off the table. Have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy the volleyball action. If I don't see you all for SoCal, I will see you all on Saturday and Sunday for the Laguna Beach Open. Peace!